everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're talking about episode 5 of Remonster. In today's episode, Gobrou and friends are making moves, building alliances, and otherwise preparing for the upcoming war between humans and elves. The goblins have decided that they will agree to terms that will have them be helping the elves in the actual conflict. And it actually all starts with the goblins having been gathering information and having gotten a tip that warns them that the leader of the elves, his daughter, is going to be traveling through an area, and there are humans who are planning to try and kidnap her. What the goblins have found out is that there is a spy among the elves and that information has been being leaked. So, of course, Gobrou and friends, being who they are, have gathered together and are ready to intervene on this person's behalf. Well, intervene they do, not necessarily in the way she would have liked, given that they actually allow all of her escorts to be killed, and then Gobrou kills and consumes the humans that were trying to kidnap her after questioning them. But either way, she gets to live, and I mean, in the kind of world that we see in Remonster, that is pretty much the best somebody can hope for. Plus, I mean, she was found and rescued by Gobrou and friends, which means she wasn't abused in any way or anything like that either. That said, she was pretty freaked out, and understandably so, given what was going on and everything. But by the end, it seems that she has calmed down, and they actually do take her back to her village, and they actually start to build a set of connections and allegiances between themselves and the elves. I thought that this overall section of the episode was really interesting because while Gobrou did save the girl, and obviously, as I said, he doesn't necessarily do it in the most honorable and noble and chivalrous way that would be expected of someone in a story like this, he does it in a way that would be true to his nature as a goblin and based off of his past as a human. What's also really interesting about this particular situation is the fact that Gobrou is actually questioned about whether he knows anything about what happened to the elves, like warriors and scouts that went out into the world. And oh hell yeah, Gobrou knows, but you think Gobrou is gonna tell them a damn thing? Nope. I don't think so. And he absolutely doesn't. And I sat watching these sequences wondering whether anyone among the elves was going to call him out on his bullshit or whether they thought anything else. And we end up eventually finding out that the higher-ups among the elves have ultimately told the elven people to recognize that those people that went missing are dead. And yes, some of them are, because as we know, in previous episodes, Gobrou and friends had the elves fight against people in the camp to determine who would live and who would die, and of course, Gobrou fixed the matches. What we didn't realize until this episode, though, is that Gobrou has actually passed out earrings to some of these elves that have been in the camp, and those earrings, unknown to those elves, I would assume, actually not only have a communication spell, but also a concealment spell, which actually makes them appear as dark elves to the other elves when they come to the village. Oh my god, that was brilliant. I laughed so hard. But the gist of that first part of the episode, of course, is that the elves and the goblin camp are going to be working in tandem against the humans, and I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be where the story is going to be going next, and the majority of this episode was setting up the alliance needed for that to make sense, and also showing us the preparations of Gobrou and his friends as we get ready for shit to hit the fan. We saw a bunch more advancements, both in goblins evolving into hobgoblins, as well as some of the lady characters actually evolving in ways that made them unique and distinct classes. I thought that was pretty cool. I particularly loved Gobmi's new design, her drow-like appearance, red eyes, and spectacles, along with her snazzy lilac outfit, look really good. And that's something I think that we're seeing more and more with characters in this show. Despite having a massive cast, with Gobrou as its beating heart and main protagonist, the artists are doing a fantastic job of using awesome visual cues to help key characters stand out. While we're still talking about Gobmi, another thing we should note is how Gobrou reacted to her new look. If you pay attention during the opening credits to the design of the girl who killed Gobrou in his past life, and then take a look at the facial structure of Gobmi's new evolution. You can see that there is a resemblance. I'm pretty sure Gobrou can see that too. I wonder how or whether that's going to get used down the line. It could just be something they use to play with him mentally, or it could be something really important that we should take note of. I'm going to mention it here just in case it's the latter. There's also the fact that some of those transforming are getting tattoos like Gobrou did, which could tie back to what he was thinking about in the last episode, contemplating whether his presence is influencing how the goblins are evolving. If that's the case, what it makes me wonder is, are these goblins that were born in this situation other people from this previous existence who have also carried over? And will any of them, or do any of them, have their memories? One of the really interesting things that just occurred to me is the idea that the only person whose point of view we ever actually get because of this journaling format of the show is Gobrou's point of view. For all we know, based off of this information we just had here, it's entirely possible that other characters have their full memories and have been contemplating stuff all along as well, either regretting or rejecting things from their past existence, or possibly planning and plotting to continue things from that when the time is right. If I was Gobrou, I'd be sleeping with one eye open. We've also had some changes and advancements on both personal connections and romantic fronts, which is pretty cool. We learned that the two sisters, who I think they were originally salespeople or traders, have actually evolved and advanced in their skills and they've actually become head chefs. So now Gobrou actually has them trying to learn how to make foods that he used to like in his past life. Like, it actually shows them trying to figure out how to make potato chips. That really cracked me up, because something we very rarely see in isekai is the main characters looking back on anything that was actually from their past existence. This actually kind of reminds me of something that went on in Konosuba a while back, where Kazuma was actually trying to replicate some things from when he was on Earth in his alternate world. And it's funny to see Gobrou doing the same thing, especially when the overall tone and theme of these two shows are actually very different. We see the elderly Grandpa Goblin, as I call him, again trying to do the hippie shake and get a girl. And we see Gobrou again going, nah, to that idea. Because nobody's interested and Gobrou has no intentions of making anyone do that. Now, what really makes me curious about this particular situation personally is that given the tone of this show and how much it can vary, there are two very different paths that they could actually take with Grandpa Goblin. On one hand, they could actually be very serious. They could have Grandpa Goblin go the way of the goblins that we saw a few episodes back, who ultimately ended up leaving, but whom prior to that actually tried to force somebody and got rocked when they did that. I don't think that is as likely because he's elderly. If anything, I think maybe he might steal something from the alchemist and cause trouble in that way, but I'm not really sure he's necessarily that smart, so we'll see. Another possibility that I think is more believable possibly is that we're going to continue to see Grandpa Goblin try to get it up, and it's going to be used as a comedic counterfoil to the way that characters like Gobrou or Gobkichi are succeeding with the ladies, and succeeding because they actually allow the ladies to be able to organically choose them, and that the ladies do choose them because of their competence and capability. Speaking of Gobkichi, whom I think is or Kichi or something now, but I'm just going to keep calling these guys Gobrou and Gobkichi just to keep things from getting confusing. What we do find out about him is that he actually has a crush on one of the female goblins who has evolved into some kind of Earth Lord wizard where she can manipulate stuff like rock and stone and caves and ground and stuff like that, and it's pretty cool. But actually what happens is that he takes Gobrou aside and he's all telling Gobrou about his feelings for this girl and how he wants to get together with her. And unknown to him, Gobmi has had conversations with the girl, and Gobrou knows about those, and Gobmi and Gobrou work together to get the two of them to actually be in a place and talk about their feelings, and yeah, they actually get together. I thought that was super cute. I really like little moments like this inside of an anime because they remind us of the things that the characters in a story are fighting for, and they make it so that we, who have much more normal lives and who rely on stuff like interactions with other people in our lives to understand and relate to things, it makes it so that we can really connect with what's going on, because it brings it back to the stuff that matters to a person in the real world. The last major key thing to say is that all of this stuff that they've been building up, whether it be connections with each other, alliances and allegiances, the addition of the new elves and the kobolds to the fold, and everything else that's been going on in the last few episodes, is definitely going to be tested when and if this new war situation happens. We see the episode wrap up with Gobrou telling the goblins and friends that they are now going to be known as the mercenary group Parabellum, which is Latin for prepare for war. And I thought that was really cool, because usually goblins kind of just worry about being goblins and doing goblin things from what we saw at the beginning of the series. But as everything is built up, Gobrou has totally changed and evolved not only people around him and himself, but the society and culture that he now exists in. And I thought that was really amazing to see this level of evolution of the group on a collective whole. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that's going to work moving forward. Anyway, we seem to be totally prepared for a really exciting episode next week. It'll be interesting to see what happens if things go down between the humans, the elves, and the goblins. And it seems like the title of our next episode is going to be Remedy, which is remedy, which means, oh my gosh, is somebody going to get hurt? Are we going to need to go on a quest to make somebody feel better or something? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm just spitballing what I think might be going down based off of the title. But those are my thoughts on this week's episode, and I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. So if you have any thoughts on what went down this week, drop those in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!